Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Inspire SA. I'm your host once again, Nassis Mbuyu, and very big welcome to everyone watching. And wherever you are watching, a very big welcome once again. Today we have another episode of Inspire SA, and we'll be continuing or concluding our series that we started of Introduction to Cloud and Data with our speaker, Koketso Capfresh. I don't know if I pronounced it rightly, but yeah. Um, so yeah, without wasting any more time, firstly we do apologize for last week's episode because we had some network issues. The network was against us, so we couldn't air an episode for last week, but we pushed it on to this week's episode. So yeah, either way, the content is still getting out there. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome our speaker of the day. Welcome, Koketso.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon, guys. How you doing?
Yeah, you good, bro?
Yeah, it's wonderful. Just getting cold now, man. It's getting cold. It's now winter, so I guess it's that time of the year.
Yeah, right now we should be in our blankets. We should be in our, our winter clothes. But even though it's cold, we still have to grind. We still have to keep pushing
Yeah,
our
yeah,
content
yeah,
out there.
yeah, man. So it's been 5 weeks. I mean, it's a 4 week series, but we turned it to five. We almost made it into six, but yeah,
Mm.
it's been. I still remember the first episode. So we've come a long way, guys. Four episodes in, we've learned a lot, and we're still gonna be learning a lot today. Really, really cool stuff. I'll also be giving away some exam vouchers. So if you guys are watching this, I'm gonna be leaving some questions, and then you guys can reach out to me. I'll be able to give you guys a free Microsoft voucher. We'll be talking about that as well. So today it's gonna be quite interesting because since it's our last series, I know it's the last day, but there's gonna be many more. There's gonna be definitely many more. And I hope you guys had fun. But so without further ado, yeah, let me just get started. Just let me know once you can see my screen.
So, what do we have in store for today while the screen is loading?
Oh, okay. So might as well, since it's already sharing, might as well just jump into it. So basically, what we're going to be talking about today is we're just going to be doing a recap of everything we've actually just learned about data and cloud, right? So remember, for the last 4 weeks, we spoke about the careers, we spoke about industries, we spoke about choices, and so forth. So that's exactly what we're going to be jumping on into today. Another thing we're going to be looking at is that we're going to be looking at the Microsoft Azure platform. So I'll be showing you guys familiarizing yourself with some of the concepts there. Another thing we're going to be looking at, we're going to be doing another graph activity. This one is quite cool, very simple, very easy. We're going to be designing a pie chart using Matplotlib. And last but not least, I'll be going over some tips and tricks that you guys can use to actually ace your Microsoft AZ exam. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. So let's just do a final recap of the weeks that we've actually had, right? So we spoke about what exactly is data. We spoke about the different types of data. So remember, we spoke about nominal and nominal data. We spoke about quantitative and qualitative data and so forth. And guys, the recordings are up on YouTube. So if you guys are not quite familiar with that, I highly suggest you guys go back all the way to episode one. Trust me, there's a lot that you guys are still going to learn, and so forth. We spoke about different type. We spoke about what cloud computing is. We spoke about how accessing data on the cloud, why it's important to having cloud. We spoke about the disadvantages of using the cloud. We spoke about data versus information. Remember that data is unprocessed, unorganized raw data, and information is just data that is much more organized and actually has meaning towards it. So we also looked at different types of careers. So the careers that we have in data, so we have things like data engineers, data scientists, and so forth. Same way, we also spoke about careers in the cloud, right? So we have cloud engineers, we have cloud architects, and cloud consultants. We also had a quick review in terms of the industry that use data. So industries that use data is obviously, especially all our social networks, right? They consume data, we produce data, and they give us data back. also industries that use cloud as well. So this is what we actually touched upon last week, right? So last week, remember, guys, we spoke about all things interacting with data, right? Working with real life data, and we were still in the process of actually working and constructing an example. But we spoke about NumPy, we spoke about pandas, about data visualization, and Matplotlib. These are all Python libraries. Obviously, you guys can also do research on your own in terms of um, the kind of libraries your preferred language uses, but I prefer Python, which is much simpler. But these are just all data analytics and data science kind of libraries that actually help us to draw interactive graph representations, right? So without further ado, guys, if you don't know me by now, I don't know where you've been, but last but not least, my name is Koketo, also known as Capfresh, and yeah, basically this is what I do on a daily basis. I'm a game developer, web developer, software engineer, brand ambassadors for a couple of people, but I also write tech blogs. I give tech talks as well. I'm a tutor, coach, and as well as a code advocate. And these are all my details down there. If you guys want to reach out, if you've got any questions, interested in anything that we've touched on the last couple of weeks. But this is definitely not about me. It's all about you, right? So let's just do a quick recap, as I said. So we spoke about what is Matplotlib, right? So Matplotlib is basically as a plotting library that we saw last week. It helps you to plot different kind of mathematical numbers, actually, so we can actually use it. I'll be showing you another example of how it actually looks like, the look and feel, right? um, Another thing we spoke about is, I mean, what is data visualization? This is obviously a representation of how the data, we can actually transform it and actually put it into a much more visual sense. When I mean visual, I'm talking about graphs, I'm talking about scatter plots, I'm talking about pie charts. It actually brings more visual towards it, and we were able to communicate with it. Another one is that obviously we spoke about careers in data. So we have data scientists versus data engineers. And remember, we spoke about analysts and BIs, right? So we even dived much more deeper into that. We also spoke about different careers in cloud computing, which is a cloud engineer, cloud architect, security engineer, and so forth. So, what is data, right? So we spoke about the difference between data and information, right? So data is the unprocessed, unorganized, unlabeled data, which is data that depletes over a valuable of time. And information is basically data that has meaning. So meaning that it's been categorized, it's been cleansed, it's been organized, it's been processed, just to give us better understanding and meaning of the data, right? We also spoke about what is the cloud. So basically, the cloud refers to the services that are accessed over the internet, right? So essentially, the cloud is the internet, but it doesn't only stop from there. What can we do with the internet, right? We can obviously store our information, we can access information, we can publish information, and so forth. So obviously, we looked at the kind of companies that actually use both data and cloud, right? So literally every single company nowadays, I really can't even think of a company that does not use data or the cloud in one way or another, right? And then I also spoke to you guys about having a roadmap in terms of how to get into the data and cloud space, right? So I spoke about getting certification. So luckily for you, I'll be giving you guys a free voucher. You guys can obviously take your time and study, getting your first Microsoft AZ900 certification. Make sure that you guys start, engaging and communicating in a community, right? So the more like-minded people that you surround yourself with, the more knowledge you are willing to actually gain and you can experience and so forth. Last but not least, always try to have a portfolio, build small projects, try and test your knowledge and test your capabilities in that sense. Right, we even spoke about the interesting ones that we all love, right? Money, 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 money. We spoke about the different salaries between all the careers in data, as well as all the careers in architectures as well. So we've seen and compared which one is the most popular one, which one is the most accessible one, and so forth. And another one is that what is NumPy? This one is also one of those Python libraries that actually help us to manipulate data, using multi-dimensional arrays, using matrices. But this actually just helps us to actually interpret and draw much more better grasp and communication in a higher level in that sense, right? Pandas is also another Python library that also helps us to manipulate data and is also used in data analytics, right? In particular, it offers data structures and operations for manipulating numerical tables and time series. So, once again, these are all just libraries that are going to be helping us to, really build fluent and beautiful interactions and so forth. So, now I want to quickly talk about the another really interesting thing that we're going to talk about is the AZ900 Microsoft Azure Fundamentals Exam breakdown, right? So, what exactly is a certification, right, in terms of Microsoft? So, when we talk about service providers, we talk about the top three that everybody would know by now. Is that we talk about Microsoft, we talk about Google, and we talk about AWS. But because we love Microsoft so much, we're going to be focusing on the very first fundamental exam that you can actually take. I personally really feel that it is quite a very simple, a very good exam for you to take if you have no prior experience at all. So you don't need maths, you don't need science, you don't need architecture, you don't need biology, you don't need physics. You don't have all of that, but as long as you have a passion and desire of learning how the cloud and actually data works. So the nice thing about Microsoft is that it actually breaks down after the fundamentals, it actually goes into other fundamental fields. So if you want to go into data, so there's also the data fundamentals. If you want to go into AI, there's AI fundamentals, and so forth, right? So why is actually getting this certification quite important, right? So this basically because most companies are migrating into the cloud spaces, it's very important for companies to really understand that they are hiring someone that is actually quite capable or that's quite knowledgeable with the architecture, right? So this basically it will meet the capabilities of can you actually use the Azure architecture? Can you use the management and the governance tools? Do you know anything about pricing? And I'm going to be touching obviously all about those when I actually show you the practical example of how an Azure platform actually looks like, right? So here's a quick tip that I would actually recommend and suggest that you guys would take when it comes to writing your roadmap exam. So I took mine I think in 3 days, but because I've got so much prior knowledge before then, right? So if you're a totally beginner, this is exactly what I'm going to be telling you how to actually ace your exam first time, right? What you want to then do is I would take between 2 to 3 weeks to of actually learning my before taking the actual exam. So now the first week, what I would do is I would actually learn and study all the concepts that Microsoft actually has to offer in terms of the exam. So the concept would be cloud concepts, core services, core solutions, the management tools, and all of that. So it's actually broken down into 5 sections, if I'm not mistaken, and really try to understand how Azure specifically handles these core concepts and so forth. It's very beginner and entry level. So these are the kind of things that you will just have to learn off the bat. Like I said, there's no prior knowledge, there's no prior exam, or there's no prior pre qualification or prerequisite to actually take this exam. All you just have to do is really focus and put your time into it. Then what I would do in the second week is that I would then do is try to now do practice exams, right? Research practice exams in terms of see how the examination structure is. Try to understand. The thing is, don't try to cram these because it's really gonna catch up to you, especially if you're going into the industry of cloud and data. That don't try to cram your answers, but try to understand how the answers are come about, right? So what I would do is take practice questions, and in the last week, what I would do is I would then literally almost every day take 2 hours a day and give yourself a real world exam. So set aside an hour and a half, put yourself, close your books, close everything, and actually test yourself by taking an exam. There's also online resources where you can do that, and skill yourself. So the test score is out of 1,000, but to pass the exam, you need to score 700. So how this actually works out is Microsoft has its own algorithmic way. So it doesn't mean that you need to score 70% on your exam, right? Because the exam actually it varies between 40 and 60/65 questions, right? So you can't say, or I'm judged that okay, if I maybe skip 5 questions wrong, right? Because how Microsoft actually structures the exams is that each section actually contributes a certain section, right? A certain percentage. So cloud concepts, I think, is like 21%. Core concepts, core Azure services is like another 25% and stuff like that. So you don't really have to gauge your way in terms of how many wrong answers you get, but I would try to really answer the as much as I can. Don't try to leave out a question or leave out an or skip a question, because that actually might affect the calculation of how your total score might be, right? So you need 700 out of 1,000. So it's a point system, right? It's all multiple choice questions, so you don't have to write paragraphs, you don't have to explain things. It's just literally, click, click, click. Some questions it's multiple choice, some questions are drag and drop, some questions may be true or false. Some of them are also multiple answered multiple questions, so you'll have to select maybe four, 3 options out of 5 options, or 2 of them are correct out of the 5. So that's the way you'd have to do it. So the cost of this exam, it's $100, but depending on the country you're from, right? It really, really varies from country to country and so forth. Um, rather than, as I said, prepare and practice, right? So prepare using, and a really, really great tool is Microsoft actually on the Microsoft Learn platform actually gives you perfect examples, perfect explanations of how all of these services work, what you need to focus on. It goes into much more deeper depth, deep enough for you to actually pass the exam really well. I think on my score, I think I scored almost close to a 900, but all because I actually did read through the Microsoft documentation pretty well. Online resources, as I mentioned, this exam, it's quite easy to pass. You don't have to really spend months and months and months really training and cramming your way through it. It just really needs a lot of understanding, because remember, it's fundamentals. So you need to make sure your fundamentals are key. And finally, then you become a Microsoft certified professional, right? So not to say that this is the end of it all, because remember, it is only fundamentals, but it's the first stepping stone that you definitely want to take in terms of acquiring other Microsoft certifications. So why do you want to become a Microsoft certified? Because obviously, number one, it's updated skills and it's knowledge, right? We spoke about all of the benefits of why cloud is so important, why data is so important. We also spoke about you actually stand out in a crowd, in a pool of job seekers, right? So the more qualifications you observe. So this is just a screenshot that I took when I was studying for the Azure the data path. So I did the Azure data fundamentals, and then I ended up doing the data engineering associate, right? So what also this, it just also validates to the company that you actually are telling the truth, that you actually know this technology, you are capable of getting this technology. You are also putting yourself in a position of getting a high salary, many job opportunities, and so forth and so forth. So really, I don't see why shouldn't I honestly don't see any reason why for you not to get certified, especially in the world of the tech space and so forth. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the presentation session. I really hope that you guys have learned. You guys can see we've learned quite a lot in the last 4 weeks throughout the series. I really hope that you guys, if you're not understanding anything, do go back to all of my previous videos. Do watch it again. There's all the content that I've touched on today and many other weeks. You'll definitely learn, get value from it. So without further ado, I think let me jump into Azure and actually show you how the platform actually looks like, right?
While we're waiting for Azure to load up, um, mind if I ask some questions? Okay,
Right.
you still
So
there?
I'm just going to be showing you guys. Yes, yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Oh, I was saying I wanted to ask some questions, but I'll ask it at the end. I'll let you continue.
Okay. All right. All right. So this is basically you just go onto Azure, and let me just sign in. So I already have an account, guys. Signing up for Microsoft Azure is quite easy. It's quite simple. It's free, right? So the only thing you just need to just make sure is that you will, however, need to have a credit card or some just so that you can. They won't charge you for anything. It's just that they want to just verify that you are an actual human being. All right. Um, am I logged in? Okay, here's my Azure portal. All right, so it's portal.azure.com. All right. So as you can see, it's mainly a web browser service, right? So you don't have to download anything. You don't have to get external packages. You don't have to install anything or anything special packages to make this work. This is just a browser, and so let's just Microsoft to um I think okay. I was gonna say since it's loading, we can take the question you had, but it's okay. So as you guys can see, I hope. All right. So this is obviously my account. I'm in, and well, guys, you can do so much in the over here, right? So I personally use Azure, right, for my web hosting services. So web hosting services actually helps you to upload a website for free, right? So um, Microsoft has those services where you can actually, it's either you can use a website, you can post uh, an application. So when I mean an application, like a whole app, right? So it actually supports all sorts of languages, so like PHPs, Java, Python. It actually you can actually integrate APIs, right? So another service that we can actually look at is the Microsoft database. So basically, all about databases is this is where you can actually store information, right? So this is you can use this as a cloud backend technology. So it's also integrated with SQL. So if you're familiar with your backend, um, you can also integrate your SQL databases onto an Azure platform, which is quite good because in industry, obviously, if you have a on-premise SQL, you can link it with your SQL database, Azure database, and in that sense, you'll be able to actually have the database onto a cloud service. You also have virtual machines, right? So virtual machines, this is quite a very important concept that you actually need to understand, especially taking your exam. It's like basically, it's like basically uh, you can actually customize or it creates sort of like a machine, but with the necessary compatibility, the compute power, the memory, and the storage, right? So, if, for instance, you have an application that you want to be testing, you can actually run a virtual machine instead of actually installing all the packages onto your machine, and you can actually leverage from the Microsoft machines and stuff like that, right? So when I, so you will see things like resource groups and subscriptions as well as storage accounts. So these basically are things you have to definitely know in terms of taking your exam. This is just basically that it tells you in terms it has to do a lot with security and access, right? So who has access to your database, who has access to your websites, who can modify them, who can use virtual machines, and it doesn't only end over there, right? If I actually go to more services, you will see there is like a plethora of other things you guys can do on Azure. There's IoT services as well. There's cognitive services. So um, Let's just wait a second while it's still loading. And what I'll probably do is maybe the next series that I will then do is I will probably like try build an application using one of these services, right? So I spoke about that. So even cost management, right? So cost management just shows you all your billing situations. So remember, as I said, most of the services here are free, but some of them you may have to pay for them yourselves, especially if you are really using big projects and integrated projects or going into things like um, data science and data engineering, and all of those sorts of things. So, but those are things you don't have to worry about now. But if you look at the categories, right? So if I look at compute, I spoke about virtual machines. There's even Azure functions. So you can. So these are basically all the things you will definitely understand once you start studying for your Microsoft exam. So if I go to web, obviously I spoke about web services. That's quite a popular one. Notification hubs. So this will actually have push notifications and so forth. If you want to integrate your APIs. Um, so as you guys can see, if Power Platform were very popular one as well. Static web apps and so forth. So API connections. If I use containers, so when you go into Kubernetes and especially nowadays, we really try to containerize a lot of these products so that some of the dependencies only work with certain containers, and some containers can actually communicate with other containers. And so, but that's another conversation on its own, and it involves a lot of like architectural structures and stuff. I spoke about databases, right? So there's different types of databases, right? So um, because we spoke about data, we're going to be using things like Cosmos DB. They'll be using APIs for MongoDB. Um, so Azure databases for MySQL Server, so you can actually link even Postgres and so forth. So Synapse uses a lot in the data science and data engineering field. So you'll be doing things like data lakes, uh, and all of those things. So elastic pool, yeah. So as you can see, well, the more you move down, these are just more specific kind of services, right? So if you're going into analytics, right? So analytics actually, so if you are Power BI also helps you to draw um, things like graphs, interpret your data. Yeah, you can use Power BI. So all of these other things predominantly work with storages and what kind of things you can save. So like traditional databases versus non-traditional databases, big data versus normal data. You can run queries on data and so forth, right? So there's even AI and machine learning. So you guys can use bots. There's cognitive services. Um, there's even computer vision. There's face API. So you guys can see there's so many things, right? I spoke about Internet of Things. So if you want to connect things like sensors, if you want to connect gadgets together and so forth, you can able to do that. There's even mixed reality. If now that be one of the tech buzzwords is the metaverse and stuff like that, then we can also talk about security. So this is also quite a very important one, right? So you want to know all about uh, vault keys, so that maybe if you want to create your own specific security system keys for specific people to access certain information and so forth. Yeah, so there's multi-factor authentication. So there's authentication versus authorization. All of those concepts, you will definitely learn all of these things while you be studying. There's even DevOps. So DevOps usually entails of continuous integration and continuous deployment, where you'll be learning about how to actually structure your whole your CI/CD pipeline in terms of an industry or industry level or collaborative level. You can even monitor, so actually you can keep track of how your APIs are working. You can track of how your databases are working. You can even set up alerts. So for instance, if you want to set an alert that you're giving a special for the first 200 subscribers, right? It will give you an alert to say, well, there's one subscriber left, and you can create those kind of alerts. You can even keep track of all the things that you've been doing. So each and every service that you'd actually do. So from databases to who's interacting with your website and all your products. So as you guys can see, the list is quite intense when it comes to all of the Microsoft Azure services. But the ones I really highly recommend that you guys really focus on is basically storage, right? So I'd really recommend, maybe you can just work your way through in terms of how to use Microsoft storages, web, right? So if you want to actually host a website onto the servers, and Microsoft databases, so just interacting with a MySQL database. So that's basically one of the most simple ways or simple tasks that you guys can actually familiarize yourself with. But as I said, and if I scroll down, if I'm not mistaken, it will actually show you learning. See, so free training for Microsoft. There we go. So it will actually show you um, uh, go into much more details in terms of each unit has 5 units, 8 units, and and guys, this actually comes with videos, so you can actually watch the videos. It will explain to you and so forth. So it also comes with contextual text as well. So if you want to read and watch video, it's perfectly fine with you, right? So guys, this is basically an overview how Microsoft Azure actually works, right? You can simply play around, and obviously this dashboard, I'm not sure if you guys might have this one up, but especially when you start it up, I don't think you guys will have this portion over here just as yet, because I've been using mine not so long ago. Obviously it will show all my favorites, and so forth, useful links, and so forth. So this is basically how the Microsoft portal actually looks like. So as I said, guys, just you can sign up for free. If you're a student, it's best for you because you can also have a free subscription. And I think when you sign up, you have something like 100 credits when you first sign up, right? So, and I think it lasts for like a year, and then but there's the free tier. So the free tier, it's like a service that can will always be running for as long as you have a Microsoft Azure account, right? So yeah, that's about it. So guys, I think the last thing that I want to actually show you, right, is that I want to quickly continue from last week, is that I want to show you another cool activity that we're gonna do. All right, so let me close that. Okay.
I wanted to ask, so say someone is interested in writing the AZ 900 exam, right? How would they go about
Mhm.
doing so, or like getting the details to write, or where to write, etc.?
Okay, so sorry, can I just wanna make sure that I am
Okay, no
all right.
problem. You can
All
you
right.
can answer it
So
at the end of the session.
all right, all right. So basically, if you want to actually write your AZ 900 exam, what you basically have to do is you just go on Google and you just type in um, Microsoft exam portal, right? So, but remember, guys, you have to make sure that you have an account, right? In this case, I personally feel that you should, maybe if you don't have one, maybe open an Outlook account, so that it actually saves in your own personal name. What you can just simply do is go there. You can quickly sign up, and it will obviously input all your details, right? Guys, signing up to these things are quite easy. It's quite simple. It's not a long process. There you don't actually need to input any of your credit card information, because obviously you already have an Outlook account. If you don't have an Outlook account, Also, I highly recommend just Google in terms of signing up. Same way you have a Google account, it's the same way you can sign up for Outlook account. You can go onto the website and then you go into Microsoft Learn or Microsoft certifications, and there you actually create a profile, right? You create a profile on there, and then it has all your details. But one thing I can definitely tell you that please make sure that your details um, are always correct, right? They're up to standard and so forth. Because I'm not quite sure if you can change information, things like your personal name and your IDs and all of those things, and so forth. So you can obviously sign up and yeah, take your exam. So it's quite a simple process. All right, so guys, moving along. So remember, I said today I want to actually work on another project, right? So I just created an empty folder on my desktop, and I'm just gonna create another folder. So this one, I'm just gonna call it right one. All right, so I'm just gonna call it pie chart, right? So inside of my pie chart, what I'll just simply do is I will open up my terminal, IDLE. Remember, guys, how I showed you how to actually download Python from last week, right? So you can just simply open up your start menu and type in IDLE. What it will do, it will then start up the shell. Let's just wait for that to start up. All right, awesome. So the first thing that I then want to do is I want to say file, new file, right? Then I have an empty file like this, right? So because I'm going to be starting to code, let me just use my magnifying tool. All right. And let me just say options, show number of lines. And we know. So remember, as I said, the first things first, we're going to be drawing a pie graph, right? And let's just create, it's called a pie chart, right? So let's just create a scenario where we want to um, compare all the current, all the, let's say, popular uh, programming languages, right? Languages. That's my spelling can languages, right? And let's just look at a couple of things. So let's just say, remember a pie chart, right? A pie chart obviously has to comprise of 100%, right? So first thing we need to remember that a pie chart always has to equal to 100%, right? So all of our attributes that we're going to be having, right? So the first one we can have is, this is create a list like Python, let's say script, let's say Java, let's put one more, I don't know, C sharp. Yeah. All right. So let's just compare that, right? And let's then say that in terms of popularity, um, we'll say that Python probably has about, I don't know, it got 15 votes, 15 votes, right? And then JavaScript probably has about, let's see, I don't know, about 30 votes. And then Java probably has about 10 votes, right? And C sharp, let's say 45. So let me just make sure that my math is correct. So 55, 70, 30. All right, so that's perfectly fine. So now Remember, guys, what we do with this information is let's now plot our pie chart, right? So first things first, we need to always import our libraries slash modules. So the first thing I'm gonna do is import pi as ny key, right? Then I'm going to import matplotlib. I'm going to import matplotlib.plot matplotlib dot py plot, right, as plot. And now the first thing is that I want to deal with the labels, right? So these are the labels, and assign the sizes, right? So remember a pie chart. Remember it's like that circular pie chart. So the first things first is let's get our labels, and what are we gonna call them? So remember we had, so we're gonna create a list strings. So we said we have Python. We had what is this? We have Java. We had Java, and we have C sharp. C sharp. All right. Another thing is we need to now assign the sizes. So right over here, right? So this is the size for each size. So when I mean size is that kind of the percentage portion out of 100, right? So this is 15%, 30%, 10%, 45%, right? So then assign my sizes, and obviously I'm just gonna have an array of numbers. So I said it's 15, 30, 10, and 45. All right. So now the thing is, I need to just make sure that I want to actually add a very nice, cool shadow to it, and this is just an extra feature that I'm just adding, but it's like it's a drop shadow. So that it actually just shows. It's like a drop shadow, and I'm just going to explode, which is equal to, this is 0, 0, 1, 0, 0. Right. So this is just what this is just it's like a grayish color, grayish color. So our shadow will just have a grayish color, right? Now the next thing I want to then do is, okay, so I've got my values, I've got my sizes. Now the last thing I just need to do is, okay, now I can just simply plot, right? So let's just import our figures and our XY, and we assign that to plot dot subplot. Remember, as I said, guys, the more you exercise these, coding how to draw these maps, the much more easy it will do. That you will become familiar with it. All right, so we're just going to be using the pi library. So the dot pi is just an attribute that actually is going to show us. So we just need to import the sizes. It's going to take a couple of parameters. Size, it's going to take the explode, right, equals explode, and I'm going to take my labels equal to labels, and I'm just going to use the auto plot, auto DLC, and this is just going to use this is a numpy, this is an arbitrary value which is actually going to do all the resizing and the qualification and the mathematics behind it, right? So It's going to be percentage dot 1f percentage, right? Right, and actually needs to be that. What we can do is also just make sure that our shadow, right, is equals to true, right? And let's give it a starting angle. So this is where how our pie chart is actually going to start drawing from in a clockwise movement. So we're just gonna say um, start angle will equal at 90 degrees, right? I mean that can actually start anywhere you feel like it will start, right? And the last thing I want to do is just make sure that I make sure everything else is equal. So my axis, just make sure everything is equal. And last but not least, now let me plot and show graph. And last thing we need to do is just plot dot show. Right. So if I press F5, remember that's our keyword. We still need to save that. Let's see. So my desktop folder, pie chart, and I'm just gonna call this pie.py. If I press enter, fingers crossed, and let's see if there's any mistakes. So far, so good. Compiling. And I think for here, let me just close my magnifying for a second. Let's see. Okay. Oh, plat. This is wrong spelling. It's plot 5. Let's run again. Let's see. Oh, and ta-da! There we go, guys. So this is how you can actually, you can see we've drawn a pie chart that actually shows, you know, different programming languages, right? So yeah, this is quite interesting. It's quite cool. I just wanted to check if I maybe say at 180 would it work? Let's see. Oh, okay. So this just actually just spins the whole pie chart around. All right. So I can actually move the chart up and down. I believe I can also just yeah. So I think you can also change some properties. Height space. Let's see from the top. Oh, okay. You can change the size. All right. So as you guys can see, you guys can do quite a lot with this, but this is basically how you can obviously create a pie chart, and obviously you can be able to save the figure. So this is quite good in terms of obviously when you're going into um, presentation, right? So you have all of this data, and I mean, guys, look at the way how we turned this information, right? This line of this is what we are given, and we are able to obviously translate it into a much more interactive piece of information. So all right, guys. So yeah, well, at least this week's one it actually worked perfectly well, perfectly well. Well, it was a very interesting session. I can't believe we've literally gotten to the end of our journey together, guys. And yeah, please make sure that if you've got any questions, if you're not sure about anything, please do make sure that you do contact me. Um, and so forth. But with that being said, I think, Narcis, if there's any more questions from your side, is there anything you'd like to wrap up with? Okay, seems like he might not be. Okay, so I think he might be having some network issues, but yeah, on my side, guys, ladies and gentlemen, it's been good. It's been great. I really had an awesome time, talking to you guys and sharing to you guys about all things data related. And I really do wish all of the best for your journey and so forth. All right. So from my side, take care.